Everything okay?
I don't like the look of that.
Captain Phillips, can you hear me? Captain Phillips, can you hear me?
Captain Phillips is a very, very specific, accomplished merchant mariner who has all the responsibilities of being a captain aboard this very complicated vessel. It looks like it's just this big, ugly thing that moves from place to place, but it's actually got a million moving parts and human beings that all have different demands and have to be negotiated with. Well, all that stuff goes out the window the moment those hijackers show up, and he has to be operating on a completely different algorithm in his head. We are an unarmed freighter. We have 2 skiffs approaching with armed intruders. Potential piracy situation.
Copy, Alabama. You should alert your crew and get your fire hoses ready.
Yeah, is that it?
Chances are it's just fishermen.
They're not here to fish.
This is ultimately it's a crime story. It's a story of a crime and its consequences. The crime is the stealing of a ship and later the kidnap of the captain. And what I like is it's a sort of contemporary crime story. It's, you know, which is taking out on the high seas in the shipping lanes of the world.
4 pirates on board. 4 pirates coming towards us down the main deck. You know the drill. We stay hidden no matter what. I don't want any hostages. Captain Phillips is literally a very hard-edged man that seems to be with absolutely no negotiation on the horizon whatsoever as far as he's concerned. But as soon as those guys come on the board, he becomes a very pliant, he becomes a very helpful, he becomes almost outright cheerful, and that's what is required in order to do the one thing that is his responsibility, which is get those guys off his ship.
Who's that?
We got a problem. We pushed the ship too hard. We're off the grid.
Captain, look at me.
Sure.
Look at me.
Sure.
I'm the captain now.
Well, you've got 2 great characters in the centre of it. You know, both captains from different parts of the world. You know, Captain Phillips, who's a, you know, modern container ship captain, and Muse, who's a, you know, pirate skiff captain. And really the sort of the collision between the 2 of them and the battle of wills, the trial of strength, that's really what the film's all about.
No one get hurt if you don't play no game.
The ship's broken. We had to go.
Nobody gets hurt. Easy.
If you can set those 2 characters up and their worlds up, you know, you really just got to follow them, and that's really the sort of heart of the drama. In any true story, you're trying to create authenticity, and authenticity is what creates engagement, because if you look at an event that takes place in the real world, audiences can sense whether it feels authentic or not, you know. And so how do you create authenticity? Well, a lot of it is about the casting. You know, for me, it was absolutely imperative that you had Somali actors, and it makes a difference because it makes the entire picture feel authentic.
Paul said, well, look, let's examine what piracy really is about. Let's examine who these guys are. They're foot soldier bank robbers in the midst of a massive organized crime ring in a place that is loaded with hopelessness and corruption and famine and poverty, and they are desperate guys. That doesn't mean there's a reason to have sympathy for them or even some degree of affection, but if we can understand that they're not just biker gangs who want to get strippers and get rich, that they do want to get rich, they do want to get as much money as they can, but they come from a hopeless place. And as Paul says, what's more dangerous than, you know, a young kid with a gun with no reason to live?
1 minute, I kill all your friends. 1 minute.
Hey, don't get in there! Gotta get him off the ship! Not like this!
You know, what's interesting about the best sort of crime stories in movies, but I think it's true of novels and plays too, is when you get the rub between 2 very different things. On the one hand, you get the clear sense of crime and consequence, something very clear morally. You know who the the aggressor is and you know who the victim is. That's all absolutely stark and clear. But crime reflects truths about the society in which the crime takes place, and those are complex meanings, you know, and contradictory meanings too, and ambiguous meanings, and so the two rub together: the clarity of the crime and its consequences, and the sort of ambiguity of the meanings that lie behind it, and that I think's what gives this film, for me, as you know, making it, the continual sort of interest.
There's got to be something other than kidnapping people.
Maybe in America. Maybe in America.
There is an environmental quality to the way Paul works. A lot of films are shot in literally sequences or segments of like a master and then coverage. Paul, as a documentarian that he had been, and certainly based on all the films that I've seen him make, even the Bourne movies, are really all about capturing the environment. Take two. We shot these scenes from beginning to end, over and over again. So if we had like the scene where the hijackers first appear, that was a full day of shooting that one scene from the moment they came barreling in to the moment that Phillips and Moosey leave the bridge. Every time you do it, it grows. Every time you do it, it changes. Every time you do it, something comes out that is completely organic and natural. You can't do anything wrong. There's not even any marks on the floor that you must hit. And the aggregate of getting that over and over again means that you have shot the scene in its entirety. And we as the actors didn't even really know that Paul was getting, you know, the segments that he got. Look, there's some movies that can't be made that way at all, and there's other movies where we say, gosh, you know, having gone through this now, if we can go shoulder mounted and we can just, you know, not pay any attention to how long the scenes is, let's try to make that happen.
Stick together, and we'll be all right. Good luck.
That's the most exciting bit because, you know, in my mind, the process of filmmaking is about capturing something that's in flux, that does not have a divinity that shaped it, whether that divinity is, you know, a deity or whether it's the divinity of the written word, the screenplay. You've got to sort of free yourself from the sense that it's been previously created, it's been previously ordained, and get to what really drama is about, which is collision without knowledge of the consequences. And then you're in a realm where it's alive and it's in play, and then if you can create those moments, you're creating pieces of urgency, and if you can put all those pieces together, then you've got a film with real drive.
Well, I got to tell you, everything you do as an actor ends up taking you somewhere else. I think all of the emotions that you have to go through, whether it's like loving a girl or laughing outrageously at something hilarious, or, you know, everything I've ever done in a film, it requires this getting to some sort of emotional reality that is contrary to the actual setting that you're in. The depth of it all, hopefully, is the end result of, quite frankly, months of pondering, as well as weeks of practice and experience in order to make it happen. And I think that's the greatest requirement of it is actually an acquired skill, and that is just trying to get past the self-consciousness of it being observed. The sooner you can forget that there are cameras there, the sooner you can no longer see them. I think the freer you will be as a performer. And sometimes that's very hard to do because you're wearing wigs in front of a green screen. But in other cases, you know, you're shooting a movie, you know, at sea, and you're at sea shooting the movie.